Welcome to the Bright Ideas podcast, where we unpack innovative ways to improve online course design. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Madison.
And we are instructional designers for the Lone Star College system. So welcome to episode 6. This is the second in our series on serving diverse learners. And today we're going to be talking about accessibility. We picked this because we get a lot of questions from faculty in terms of what is accessibility? Like, what does that touch inside of a course? And also to kind of highlight specifically accessibility for courses primarily delivered online. And today we have a special guest, Tamara Herod. She is the Manager of Disability Services for LSC-Online. So we have an expert in our midst to kind of help answer some questions.
Yeah, so we're so excited that you took the time to meet with us today. Thank you so much. But before we start asking you about accessibility and really getting into it, why don't you go ahead and share your journey here at Lone Star?
Sure. Well, first, thank you both for inviting me here today. I think what you're doing with the podcast is awesome. So I'm lucky to get to be here and chat with you guys. So I guess what started me on my journey was my first job out of my graduate program in clinical psychology. I was an educational and mental health diagnostician. So I was the person people in the community and schools came to for full psychological evaluations to determine if there was a learning disability, ADHD, or mental health issues. And then within those reports to the schools, I would provide recommendations to educators. So that's kind of what first sparked my interest in providing that extra help to people in the need of counseling and accessibility services. So after that, I started in higher education. I got a job at Lone Star College actually in 2006. Sounds like so long ago. Don't count the years. But I was an adjunct instructor teaching psychology and human growth and development. But I really wanted to help students in the form of counseling. So in 2007, first started part-time as a counselor at Sci-Fair and then full-time at Houston Community College's online program. So online colleges worked a lot differently 15 years ago, but it was fun being innovative in the way we reached and assisted students. So as a counselor, I worked with students with disabilities, provided personal counseling, crisis counseling, career counseling, and worked with a lot of student success and retention initiatives. So that was awesome. I took a short pause to raise my kids, came back here to Lone Star College 3 years ago, and I've been with LSC-Online for 1 year now as the Manager of Disability Services. So I work now one-on-one with our students with disabilities, providing appropriate accommodations to help remove any barriers that they're facing in our online courses. I also am filling the role as counselor for our college right now, and I also work with assistive technology and accessibility tools like Ally, which I'm sure I'll get to talk about a little bit today. Ally is a new accessibility tool in our online course, and it actually removes some of those barriers that my students are facing. So you can imagine I'm a big advocate of Ally.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your background. I actually didn't know that you were actually working directly with students and the diagnostic side. Because I think a lot of times with accessibility, it's a lot of work, and I think developing that empathy for the student is really, I think, that's what motivates me to really keep going and making those small improvements. So it seems like that was a big part of your journey as well.
Yeah.
Wow. So I guess to kind of kick off our actual discussion, the first question is sort of starting at the beginning, what does accessibility encompass? Because I think sometimes the trigger words, I used to work in editing, so it was alt text, that's all that accessibility kind of looked at a lot of times. So what does it really encompass, and what does that look like in practice specifically for online courses? And then what kind of impact does that have?
Sure. So accessibility ensures that all people, regardless of ability, can interact with the information that we provide and the services that we provide. So it's really all about creating access. And by law, we have to ensure that our students with disabilities have equal access and an opportunity to participate in and benefit from all of our programs, activities, and services. So for our instructors, what that means is creating a course that's accessible to a diverse student population. Everyone's different. Everyone has different strengths, weaknesses, unique learning styles. So creating the same design for doesn't work for everyone. You really have to build in that flexibility and accessibility to help students learn in a way that play to their own strengths. So I always say that one size does not fit all when it comes to learning, because it's just so true. And this is a tactile Rubik's Cube. It's a great example of what accessibility is. So not only does it have a different color on each side, but it also has a different shape that you can feel. So doing this, putting these shapes on here that you can feel, provides accessibility to our students who are blind or visually impaired. So it doesn't make this Rubik's Cube any easier to solve. And that's a very important point to make when it comes to creating accessibility. It doesn't make it any easier, it just provides that person with the opportunity to solve it.
I've never seen one like that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I really like that visual showing of accessibility, because it's not really like changing what the Rubik's Cube is, right? So it's still that learning opportunity. It's just giving it to them in a way that is accessible to them. So what are some common accessibility obstacles that you see students encountering in online courses? And really, how does that impact learning or their learning?
So sure, Ally, our new accessibility tool, actually gathers this information. It looks at all the accessibility issues that we have in our online courses. So in looking at our institutional report, we can actually pull some of our most common accessibility issues. And so what those are, the top two are images without a quality description or without a description at all, and contrast issues. So providing a quality image description helps all students, provides more meaning to that image so that all students can gain more information, but it also helps our students with visual impairments or those that are using screen reading software. And then for contrast issues, imagine a black background with a dark blue text. It's hard for everyone to read that. So improving the quality of your contrast between the text and the background, and also not relying on color alone to convey meaning, because we do have students who are colorblind as well. Thankfully though, both of these issues are very easy to fix using Ally's guidance. So since I brought up Ally, let me tell you a little bit of what it does. So Ally, first off, it automatically provides alternative formats for our students. So they can click a little button and turn, let's say, a 10-page article into an audio file. So they can download their course content in a way that they need and to understand it. And then for our instructors, it automatically runs their course content through a common accessibility checklist and provides a score for that content. So professors know what or how accessible their course file is. And so then Ally provides easy to use, step-by-step guidance to solve or resolve those issues. So using Ally, both of these fixes, image descriptions as well as contrast issues, are super easy to fix.
I love how you mentioned, like, with alt text benefiting or descriptions, image descriptions benefiting everyone, and that really resonated with me because I worked on economics textbooks for a while. And we ended up taking the descriptions for like graphs and stuff and putting it in the image description and keeping a more minimal alt text, because really all students could benefit from a kind of text base of like trends and like how it's organized. And it really kind of like, it was that light bulb moment for me that like alt text really can serve everyone in a way like that. So that's really cool. So I guess we all kind of have to start somewhere when we're improving accessibility. When you get the report and you're looking at like this long list, what do you think has the potential to have like the broadest and the biggest impact? Because most instructors I work with, accessibility is something they work gradually over semester to semester. So like, where would you recommend starting to really kind of boost accessibility for students?
Sure. So whenever you're wanting to make the broadest impact in your course, number one is don't use scanned PDFs. Scanned PDFs are just images, and oftentimes they're poor quality images, so they make it difficult for everyone to read. They also can't be read by a screen reading software, so it becomes inaccessible to a good chunk of our students. So it's a good best practice to use text-based documents up front. So I encourage our instructors to, over time, switch out those scanned PDFs for text-based documents, especially those text-based documents with structure embedded, like tagged PDFs, so that they can be read by screen reading software. And then another thing to make the broadest impact is just to ensure ease of use. Make sure there's an intuitive design so that students know what comes next. Simplify your overall design so it's not difficult to navigate. And a good quality, detailed course syllabus goes a long way. You also want to look at captioning your videos. Captioning videos helps, again, all students for a variety of reasons. Not just those who are deaf and need to read the captions, but think of our students who are learning English as a second language. Think of our students who are studying in a sound-sensitive environment like a library, and they can't turn on the video, but they can read. Also, I wanted to point out that research shows students who listen to the audio and read along improve their comprehension. So that's ideal.
Yeah. And I guess a lot of times we talk about accessibilities, we're looking at like specific files, but here you're actually talking more about like course design and simplifying. And I think Madison and I, when we're talking with instructors, we talk a lot about like building a narrative for the course. So we're in D2L, that learning management systems. When you create a module, like actually taking the time to put in a description of maybe what's housed in that module, what students should do with that. Both, just for clarity on why am I here, but also if like someone was just hearing that, they're not just automatically going into a list of files and, without any direction.
And I think too, the common theme and thread with accessibility that I hear so far is that it benefits everyone. And I think from my own personal experience, like being a teacher, I always planned for who needed accessibility first, and then those are the types of materials that I gave to all my students. So again, right, you have all different types of learners with different abilities and different needs in a course. So it's kind of like you're upfront preparing all of your documents for everyone, right? All your files for everyone. So yeah, you've already talked about some of them, but what are some accessible or assistive technologies that you see students regularly using?
Yeah, so again, the screen reading software like JAWS, which Lone Star College provides to our students who are blind or visually impaired. And then we have Read and Write, which is a text-to-speech software, which we highly recommend our students use. And again, both of those read the screen or the text to the student. We also have students using the opposite, speech-to-text software to dictate the answers to an exam or to dictate their essay so that it's typed up for them. So that's for students with mobility issues, learning disabilities, things like that, but can be useful for everyone, us as well. We also have students using screen magnification software like Zoom Text, which we also provide to our students to just magnify the screen to be able to better read it. So those are our top assistive technologies that most students are using.
Students actually using. So our next question is actually my favorite. So Tamara, what do you think is the biggest myth out there about accessibility?
Sure, well there's a lot of myths, but the biggest myth is something that you hinted on earlier. It's that accessibility only helps students with disabilities. It's just not true, right? And you learn that in your teaching role. Accessibility helps a diverse student population. Really, all of our unique learners are assisted by creating course content that's more accessible, course design that's more accessible. So definitely, that's the biggest myth, yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because I even think of my time as an online student and like having PDFs that were searchable, like because they're text-based, so I could search and find and not have to try and locate on a 50-page document where, a specific topic was. Or sometimes I get like a little overwhelmed and I prefer just to listen to videos without the audio and I'll just read along with it. So I think that's true, is it's really, I think it's a good reason why if we have students with those specific needs so they can participate fully in the course, but it's really helping everyone in different moments as well as different needs.
Yeah, it creates like a personalized learning experience for
Absolutely.
each student.
Which makes it an advantage to that student to be able to modify, personalize the course to suit their needs, their strengths, their weaknesses, to improve their success.
Because I even think about Ally's ability to like take a document and turn it into an audio file. Like I used to commute a lot when I was in grad school.
Wouldn't that have been nice?
That would have been real nice. So it's all sorts of different ways. If only.
Well, so lastly, if someone on a Lone Star campus has questions about accessibility or wants help with accessibility, who can they contact?
Sure. So if instructors want to improve their course accessibility, the universal design of their course, I strongly recommend that they reach out to you guys. Our instructional designers, they're amazing. Our campus technologists are also really amazing. And you can find contact information in VTAC, our Virtual Teaching Assistance Center. VTAC also has guides on how to use Ally. It also has videos on how to use Ally as well, and specific types of documentation that you can search in there, and there's step-by-step guides on how to fix those specific types of course content as well. So I strongly recommend that. But if you have general questions about universal design, accessibility, or how to make your course more accessible, removing barriers for a specific learning disability, or definitely reach out to me. Yeah.
That's great. So I guess with that, thank you so much for being our guest speaker and sharing everything you've learned from your role. So I guess at this point, it's just a reminder to sign up for instructional design consultations. So once you run the Blackboard Ally report, and if you want some help on implementing those changes or understanding what it's specifically touching in the course, or even like just help improving alt text for those, especially for math people, I'm here for you. You can schedule an appointment with us on VTAC. And I guess with that, just like and subscribe.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for watching.
Yes.
Bye.